Welcome back to my channel, Revenge with Melissa.
My mother looked me dead in the eye, handed my brother the keys to my house, and told me I had 48 hours to pack my things. She stood there in the living room that I had paid for, wearing a smug, triumphant smirk, waiting for me to break down, waiting for me to beg. But I just looked at her, smiled, and asked one simple question: where is the deed? If you have ever been treated like a second-class citizen in your own life, or if you've ever had a family member look at your hard work and see it as their personal ATM, stick around. Because the look on her face when she realized I held all the cards is a memory I will frame and hang on the wall of the house she tried to steal from me. Before I get into the absolute chaos of that night, let me ask you, what time is it for you right now, and where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments, because I'm curious to see how far this story of family betrayal is going to travel. My name is Hayley. I'm 29 years old. And up until last month, I was the classic family scapegoat. To understand how we got to the point of my mother trying to legally evict me from my own home, you have to understand the golden child dynamic in my family. My older brother, Brian, is 32. For his entire adult life, Brian has been the successful one. Except, he's not. He bounces between half-baked sales jobs, drives a leased truck he can't afford, and spends his weekends hosting high-stakes poker nights with guys who think networking means buying each other cheap whiskey. I, on the other hand, was the dependable one. And in my family, dependable was just code for doormat. 5 years ago, my mother was facing foreclosure on her home. I had just graduated, landed a stable job as an occupational therapy assistant, and saved up enough for a down payment on a beautiful 4-bedroom craftsman house. Because I am apparently a glutton for punishment, I let my mother move into the master suite rent-free. Brian practically lived there too, treating my kitchen like his personal cafeteria and my living room like his private country club. I spent those 5 years grinding. I worked full-time during the day, and at night, I built my dream from the ground up. I was designing smart safety systems, fall detection flooring, and custom mobility layouts for seniors and disabled adults. I called my company Clear Path Living. I worked out of the converted guest bedroom in that house, sketching safer bathrooms on my lunch breaks and interviewing caregivers late into the night. My mother used to dismiss it as my little side thing. Brian called it that grab bar business. But last month, I finally secured a commercial showroom space downtown. I was ready to launch. This wasn't just a business opening. It was my declaration of independence. It was supposed to prove that I wasn't just the helpful daughter they called when the Wi-Fi went down. I was a founder. I reserved a massive table right in the center of the showroom. 12 chairs. I placed a small gold sign on the table that read, * reserved for family. *. I invited my mother, Brian, my aunts, my cousins. I wanted them in the front row. I wanted them to see what their dependable daughter had built. But as the clock ticked past the start time, I kept glancing at those empty seats like a fool. Not one late arrival. Not one embarrassed wave from the door. Not even a text saying, "We're proud of you." Just 12 empty chairs sitting under the bright showroom lights. Can you believe the audacity? I was shaking with rage, trying to keep a professional smile on my face as strangers walked through, touching the demo railings and testing the emergency response panels. Then, halfway through my presentation, my phone lit up. It was a photo from my mother. It was a picture of Brian, grinning over a poker table, chips stacked high in front of him. The caption read, * family night. He needed us. *. I turned the phone face down, took a deep breath, and finished my presentation with my voice trembling. After the last guest left, I locked the showroom alone. The silence in that room was deafening. But that silence was broken when a stranger in a sharp charcoal suit stepped out from near the entrance. He introduced himself as Marcus Reed. He didn't speak like someone just throwing around polite compliments. He spoke like a man who knew how to make money. "Miss Parker," he said, looking through the glass wall at my demo kitchen. "Most companies sell gadgets. You're building dignity into people's homes. We want to invest $600,000. I should have felt only joy. I should have cried from relief. Instead, my chest felt split in two. Because the exact same night strangers recognized my worth, my own family proved they didn't even care I existed. Marcus and I sat down, and for 40 minutes, he asked me questions nobody in my family had ever bothered to ask. He asked about my client acquisition plan. He asked about contractor margins. He didn't see me as Brian's backup plan or my mother's maid. He saw me as a business owner. When he left, he slid his card across the table. Sleep on this. If your numbers hold up, we can move quickly. I drove home that night with Marcus's card on the passenger seat. I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table, still wearing my launch blazer, and compiled the cleanest, most bulletproof investor packet I had ever created. By 6:12 the next morning, my phone began vibrating against the wood of the table. 1 missed call became 8. 8 became 23. By the time my coffee machine beeped, I had 76 missed calls, 18 texts, and a voicemail from my mother that started with a sweetness I recognized immediately as panic. "Haley, honey, call me back. We heard something amazing happened last night. We need to talk as a family." I stared at the word family until it stopped looking real. They hadn't needed to talk when the seats were empty. They hadn't needed to talk when I stood under those lights alone. They only needed to talk after the money news broke. Then, a text from Brian popped up. Sis, huge news. Mom says some investor is interested. That's insane. Call me. We should celebrate. Celebrate. That word almost made me throw my coffee mug against the wall. I typed a response, deleted it, and put my phone on silent. There was an old habit inside me that whispered, don't make things uncomfortable. Be the bigger person. Keep the peace. But peace in my family usually meant I stayed quiet while they took whatever they wanted from me. Peace meant I smiled when Mom introduced Brian as the successful one. Peace meant I became useful enough to keep around, but never important enough to respect. That morning, I realized I was done paying for peace with pieces of myself. I packed up my investor documents and headed downtown to meet Marcus and his partners, Elena and David. We sat in a glass-walled conference room overlooking the city. For the first time in my life, I was in control of my destiny. Then, the glass door opened behind me. Brian stepped in. He was wearing a blazer he only used when he wanted to look responsible. His face carried that practiced mixture of charm and concern that had worked on our mother for years. "Sorry," he said, smiling at the room like he belonged there. "I'm Brian Parker, Haley's brother. I didn't want her making big decisions without family input." The silence that followed was so sharp I felt it cut through 10 years of excuses. Marcus looked at me. Not Brian. "Miss Parker, is Mr. Parker part of Clear Path Living?" "No," I said, my voice steady. "He has no role in the company." Brian's smile tightened. "Technically, I helped inspire some of this. Our mom's house, family experience, all that. I just want to make sure nobody takes advantage of her." I almost admired how quickly he turned my life's work into a family asset. Elena, one of the investors, folded her hands. "Mr. Parker, this is a private meeting." Brian looked at me, and for 1 second, I saw the real emotion underneath his performance. Fear. He knew he was losing his grip. "Haley," he said softly, "please. Mom needs you. I need you. Just 5 minutes." I excused myself and walked Brian into the hallway. Before I could even speak, he whispered, "You can't sign anything without me." I stared at him. "Excuse me." He swallowed hard. "Mom told people last night that Clear Path was a family venture. She said I was advising you on growth. Some of my friends were there. If you cut us out now, it makes us look like liars." For a moment, I honestly couldn't breathe. They hadn't come to support me. They had come because while I was locking up alone, They were already claiming my work in a room full of poker chips and cheap whiskey. "So, this is about your reputation," I said. Brian flinched. "It's about family." "No," I replied, my voice turning to ice. "It's about you using that word whenever consequences arrive." His face hardened. "Don't act like you built this completely alone. Mom let you stay in her house after college." I laughed once. "Brian, I bought that house. While I paid the mortgage, she lived there rent-free." He stepped closer. "Haley, be smart. Investors like family stories. Let us stand beside you. We can all win." And there it was. The offer my family had always considered generous. Let them take credit, and they would call it love. I looked back at him, the man who had ignored my launch until my success threatened his image. "You have 10 seconds to leave this floor, or I'll ask security to remove you." His expression changed from shock to anger so quickly it confirmed everything I needed to know. "You'll regret humiliating me," he spat. I opened the door. "No, Brian. I regret believing you would ever clap unless the spotlight was yours." I walked back in, sat down, and did something I had never done before. I told the investors the absolute truth. I told them my family had never invested a dime, an hour, or a single ounce of support into my company. Marcus just nodded and said, "Our interest depends on you knowing exactly what belongs to you." By the end of the meeting, they offered me a conditional term sheet, $600,000 for a minority stake. It was grown-up money with grown-up expectations, and I was ready for both. But as I walked out of the building, my phone was blowing up. A text from Mom. *, do not embarrass this family. Brian says you made a scene. *. I didn't reply. I got in my car and drove home, ready to pack my things and finally get my own apartment. But when I pulled into my driveway, I saw 3 moving boxes on the front porch. I unlocked the front door, and the smell of stale cigar smoke and spilled beer hit me instantly. My mother and Brian were standing in the living room. Brian was holding a set of keys, my spare keys. "Ah, the prodigal daughter returns," my mother said, her voice dripping with faux sweetness. "Have a seat, Haley. We need to have a family meeting." "I don't have time for this, Mom. I have a business to run." "Exactly," Brian chimed in, leaning against the fireplace. "And since you're suddenly this big-time CEO with a massive payout coming, it's time we restructured things around here." My mother stepped forward. "Haley, Brian has an incredible opportunity. He's partnering with some guys from his poker group to flip houses. But to get the business loan, he needs collateral. He needs an address in his name." I felt a cold chill run down my spine. "What are you talking about?" "We are transferring this house into Brian's name," my mother said, as casually as if she were discussing the weather. "You can use your new investor money to buy a nice condo downtown. It makes sense. Brian is the man of the family, and he needs the asset. You're a woman, you don't need all this space anyway. Plus, we're a family. We help each other." I was shaking with rage. My hands curled into fists at my sides. "You're giving my house to Brian? The house I pay the mortgage on? The house I bought?" "Oh, stop being dramatic," my mother scoffed, rolling her eyes. "I put $5,000 toward your closing costs 5 years ago. That gives me equity. And as your mother, I am making an executive decision. Brian already signed the transfer paperwork with a guy he knows. We just need you to sign off so we can get the title changed by Friday." "Have you lost your minds?" I yelled, my voice echoing off the walls I had painted myself. "This is my home. You live here rent-free. Brian treats this place like a hotel. I am not giving you my house." My mother's face turned red. The sweet facade dropped entirely, replaced by the cruel matriarch I had spent my life trying to please. "You ungrateful little brat. After everything we've done for you, You think you're better than us now just because some rich guy threw money at you? You have become so cold, Haley. No, Mom, I said, my voice suddenly dropping to a deadly calm. I have become specific. You chose Brian's poker night over my launch. You let him try to steal my business. And now, you are literally trying to steal my house. You can't stop us, Brian sneered, stepping toward me. Mom has the original mortgage documents. She's the matriarch. The bank will listen to her, not you. I looked at Brian. Then I looked at my mother. The sheer, unadulterated entitlement radiating off them was staggering. They genuinely believed that because they were family, they owned me. They owned my labor, my money, and my property. I'll give you 48 hours to pack your things, my mother said, crossing her arms. Brian's moving into the master suite today. You can take the guest room until you find your condo. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just looked at them, turned on my heel, and walked out the front door. I drove straight to the office of Dana Miller, the attorney who had helped me form my LLC. I sat in her leather chair and explained everything. Haley, Dana said, adjusting her glasses. Did your mother ever sign a quitclaim deed? I smiled. A slow, wicked smile. Yes. 2 years ago. When I refinanced the house to pull out equity for the business, the bank required a clean title. My mother complained about the paperwork, but I told her if she signed a quitclaim deed relinquishing her $5,000 initial contribution, I would pay off her $2,000 credit card debt. She signed it without reading a single page. Dana chuckled, pulling up my property records on her computer. Well, she doesn't own a single square inch of this house. Her name is nowhere on the deed. Legally, she is a month-to-month tenant. Actually, she's not even a tenant. She's a guest. And guests can be removed. That afternoon, the revenge stopped being a loud fantasy in my head and became quiet, calculated reality. While Brian and my mother were at the bank trying to file their fraudulent paperwork, I called a locksmith. I had the locks changed on the front door, the back door, and the garage. I packed all of Brian's leftover clothes and poker chips into black trash bags and left them on the porch. Then, I had Dana draft a formal cease and desist letter, accompanied by a formal eviction notice giving them 30 days to vacate the premises, though the locks were already changed to prevent them from sleeping there tonight. At 6 p.m., my phone started ringing. It was Brian. Then my mother. Then Brian again. 17 missed calls in the span of 20 minutes. I finally answered on speakerphone while standing in my empty, quiet showroom. Haley, what the hell did you do? Brian was screaming. The locksmith won't let us in. Our bags are on the lawn. I gave you 48 hours to pack, I said calmly. But since you were in such a rush to move into the master suite, I decided to expedite the process. You changed the locks. On your own mother, she shrieked in the background. I will have you arrested. I will sue you for everything you have. Sue me with what money, Mom? I asked. You don't have any. And you don't own my house. Dana Miller is my attorney. She has your quitclaim deed from 2 years ago on file. You signed away any claim to this property in exchange for me paying off your visa. You have zero legal rights to be there. The silence on the other end of the line was absolute. It was the sound of the golden child realizing the pedestal had just been pulled out from under him. You're destroying me over misunderstanding, Brian stammered, his voice suddenly small. No, Brian, I replied. I'm refusing to let you destroy me with one. I hung up and blocked them both. The aftermath was spectacular. Because Brian had been bragging to his poker buddies that he was taking over a 4-bedroom Craftsman, the humiliation was public. The guys he owed money to realized he was broke. His business partners backed out. Meanwhile, the local business blogger who had attended my launch wrote a recap. She mentioned the technology, the investor interest, and then added one sentence that went semi-viral in our town. *, the founder gave her presentation with grace, despite a reserved family table that remained empty all night. People connected the dots. They saw my mother's deleted social media posts. In a town where everyone pretends not to gossip, my family became a pariah. My aunt texted me, "Your mother is devastated. You should fix this. I replied, "I didn't break it. And then I blocked her too." 2 days later, Marcus finalized the investment. $600,000 wired into the Clear Path Living accounts. We immediately expanded into 2 neighboring counties. We hired 3 installers, a client coordinator, and a retired nurse. The following Friday, I held a second open house. This time, I did not reserve a table for my family. I reserved seats for Mrs. Alvarez, a client who cried when she realized she could finally shower safely. I saved seats for Dana, my attorney, and for Marcus. The people who mattered showed up. They helped set up. They asked what I needed. That was the difference. People who love you do not wait for your success to become visible before deciding you deserve a chair. Halfway through the event, the automatic doors chimed. I looked up, and there stood my mother and Brian. Brian looked smaller than I had ever seen him, his shoulders slumped. My mother's eyes were red and puffy. For a second, the room blurred. The old Haley, the scapegoat, the peacekeeper, would have rushed over to smooth things out. She would have protected them from the discomfort they had created. But the new Haley stayed right where she was. My mother approached me, wringing her hands. "Haley, can we talk privately?" "No," I said calmly, keeping my voice low so the event wouldn't be disrupted. "But you can say what you came to say." She glanced around, horrified by the idea of public honesty. "Haley, I'm sorry we missed your launch. And I'm sorry I posted that. And I'm sorry about the house." I waited. Brian finally looked up. "I shouldn't have tried to take your house. I was embarrassed. Everyone thought you were doing something big, and I wanted to look like I was part of it. I was desperate." It was the first honest thing he had said in years. Part of me wanted it to heal the wounds of the past decade. But honesty is not a time machine. It does not refill empty chairs. It does not erase years of being a second choice. "Thank you for saying that," I said, my voice steady. "But you are not part of Clear Path. And you are not welcome in my house." My mother's face crumpled. "So, what does that mean for us? We're your family." I took a deep breath. "It means you can rebuild a relationship with me, very slowly, without access to my business, my contacts, or my money. It means no more using family as a password to my life. If you want to know me, you start by respecting what I built before asking what it can do for you." Brian opened his mouth, then closed it. For once, the golden child had no winning hand. They left 10 minutes later without a scene. And maybe that was the most surprising part. Not because they had changed, but because I had. I no longer needed them to understand everything before I protected myself. Today, Clear Path Living is thriving. We are changing lives, building dignity into people's homes. My mother sends me a text on holidays. It doesn't ask for money. Brian had to move into a tiny studio apartment and actually get a real job. For the first time in his life, he has to explain himself without me there to soften the blow. Some people called my actions ruthless. They called it revenge. Maybe it was. But to me, the real revenge wasn't watching them panic, or seeing Brian lose his fake empire. The real revenge was waking up every single day without asking permission to be proud of myself. The lesson I learned is this: family can be a beautiful support system, but only when love includes respect, honesty, and accountability. Sometimes, the most useful knowledge comes from learning when to set boundaries, when to protect your work, and when to stop confusing being *needed* with being *valued*. A good life is not built by chasing applause from people committed to misunderstanding you. It is built by choosing integrity when others choose convenience. And your dream does not become real only when your family finally notices it. It becomes real the moment you keep building, even when the seats you saved remain empty. So, I have to ask you guys. Leave a comment below and tell me. If you were in my place, would you forgive them right away? Or would you make them earn a place back in your life? One honest action at a time? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with anyone who needs to hear that they are worth more than what their family takes from them. I'll see you in the next one.